Australia is so vast that in one of its regions you can stumble upon waterless deserts. Shocking contrasts of Australia. How wild nature meets within another. Lush tropical forests, and in the third, snow-capped mountain peaks. It sounds like a sci-fi movie script, but it's the pure truth. Many of us perceive Australia solely as the land of kangaroos and the Sydney Opera House, but this is only a small part of the picture. Inside, with megalopolises, Australia is so vast that in one part you can find endless deserts, in another, lush tropics, and in the third, majestic snow-capped mountains. It sounds like the premise for a science fiction novel, but it is reality itself. Many imagine Australia as just the home of kangaroos and the majestic Sydney Opera House, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Countless extraordinary and amazing facts are hidden in the depths of this country. For example, did you know that there are rivers in Australia that flow in the opposite direction? Yes, that's not a typo, it's reality. Or take the Festival of Fine Arts, which attracts millions of viewers. It's just amazing how many people are willing to come together to celebrate art in all its forms. The construction of the Sydney Opera House turned out to be a truly titanic undertaking, stretching for 14 years. And this is not just a whim of the architects, but a real test of strength for everyone who took part in this grandiose project. In this video, we will embark on a fascinating journey into the world of Australia to discover its amazing nature, rich culture, famous landmarks, and of course, the most unexpected facts that will make you look at this unique country in a new way. So are you ready? Then let's go! Australia is not just a continent, it is a whole universe, separated from the rest of the world by oceans and legends. Located in the southern hemisphere, it amazes even experienced travelers with its size. If we compare it with other countries, then Australia ranks 6th in the world in terms of area. But let's not dwell on statistics, because it is much more important to understand what this means in practice. Let's just say that it is easy to get lost here for several days, and you won't even notice how you end up in the middle of an endless desert or in the shady tropical jungles. In addition, Australians, as you have probably already heard, communicate in their own unique slang, which can confuse even an experienced English connoisseur. When you meet a local resident, you may decide that you have entered a parallel reality where the phrase, "how's it going?" can mean both "how are you" and "hello." And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Nature is also not far behind, from the crimson rocks of Uluru to the snow-white beaches of the Gold Coast. If you were asked to collect all the natural wonders of the planet in one place, then Australia would undoubtedly deserve to be the final touch. Let's not forget about the fauna. Kangaroos, koalas, poisonous snakes, and even bizarre platypuses. All this creates the impression that you have found yourself in a real zoological fairy tale. So as you can see, Australia is not just another point on the map, but a whole world that is worth exploring. And believe me, this journey will definitely not leave you indifferent. A world that seems to have come out of the pages of an adventure novel, full of secrets and surprises. Now let's find out why Australia is called the Land Down Under. This is not just a funny nickname, but a whole philosophy that reflects the peculiarities of local life. Elementary, when we have winter, it's summer there. Just imagine people grilling barbecue on the beach in the middle of December while you are shivering from the cold, wrapped in 3 layers of clothing. And that's not all. In Australia, for example, it is customary to celebrate Christmas on the beach and not surrounded by a Christmas tree and snow. By the way, local holidays are a separate topic. Instead of traditional pies and mulled wine, you can see Australians enjoying fresh seafood and cool beer under the scorching sun. But don't think it's that simple. Local humor is also turned upside down. They easily joke about their accents as if it's something ordinary. And if you hear a conversation about football, know that it is most likely about rugby and not the sport that we are used to calling football. Such small things create an atmosphere in which it is easy to get lost if you are not in the know. And of course, it is worth mentioning the attitude towards nature. People can sunbathe on the beach without any qualms, and at the same time actively care about the environment. Yes, they have their problems, but in general, they know how to find a balance between enjoying life and responsibility to the environment. Therefore, when you think about Australia, remember, this is not just a country, it is a whole other world where everything is turned upside down and you never know what awaits you around the next corner. In a word, the Antipodes in all their glory. Australia is not only beaches and barbecues. Here at every step, there are creatures that do not live anywhere else in the world. Let's start with kangaroos. Yes, you've seen them in movies, but when you meet them in person, it's a completely different matter. Jumping along the streets and parks, they look like they came from the pages of a cartoon. And did you know that some individuals reach 2 meters in height? Next up are koalas. These fluffy bears who spend most of their lives in trees can sleep up to 20 hours a day. Imagine yourself lying on the couch just as relaxed and not worrying about anything. However, you should not think that koalas are so harmless. Their habits can be surprising, and sometimes they behave quite aggressively. Let's not forget about poisonous creatures. Australian snakes and spiders shock tourists. For example, a cobra. How do you like that? Better stay away from them. And what about the platypus? This creature combining the features of several animals at once. Looks like it was assembled from different parts. And that's not all. In the ocean surrounding Australia, you can find a hammerhead shark, which looks and behaves like a real predator. In general, if you love wild animals, Australia is your paradise and hell at the same time. Every day here is like a safari, where instead of good and bad, you encounter the strangest creatures that can both surprise and scare you. So, if you are going to this country, get ready. Here you are not just an observer, but a full participant in wildlife, where the rules of the game are completely different. Get ready for adventures full of adrenaline and unforgettable impressions. Here you are not just an observer, but a full participant in wildlife, where the rules of the game are completely different. Australia is not only kangaroos and koalas, but also a real mystery of nature. Have you ever had the question, is it true that rivers in Australia flow backwards? Yes, this is not a myth, but a reality that shocks many. This is explained by the fact that in the southern hemisphere, water can really stumble on gravity and swirl in the other direction. But in practice, this does not happen so often. However, believe me, when you stand on a bridge over the river and hear locals talking about underwater spells, there's a chance that you yourself will start to believe in this magic. The Australians themselves joke on this topic, saying that even our rivers are rebels who do not obey the rules. And so, when you watch the flow of a river, which seems to be supposed to flow in one direction, you begin to wonder if someone has misled you. It's like an old good fairy tale about how the world is actually turned upside down. But let's not forget that these are not only funny stories. Rivers in Australia can be real monsters with unpredictable behavior. Therefore, if you are going on a hike along one of these rivers, keep your ears open because Australian nature knows how to surprise. In general, rivers flow as they please, and this is just one of the reasons why Australia remains a mystery to everyone who decides to explore it. And what about the laws that regulate life in Australia? Local laws are a real comedy of the absurd. And if you think that everything is not as it should be in your country, then you should take a look at the Australian rules. For example, in some states it is forbidden to hold an alligator in your hands if you do not have a special permit. But here's the paradox. You can throw a party for him with friends, but you can't just take him and stroke him. Or here's another masterpiece for you. It is forbidden to feed pigeons in Sydney. Yes, now you know that if a delicious piece of bread accidentally slips out of your hands, curl up your toes and run as if a flock of angry birds is chasing you. And the laws about dogs are a separate song. In some places, your fluffy friends are prohibited from being in the park unless they are wearing muzzles. It sounds like a rule for dog interviews, but here's the reality. A couple of years ago in Melbourne, there was even a case when a man was fined for the fact that his dog was just looking at another dog. In general, the laws in Australia are not just a set of rules. It is a whole theater of the absurd, where each act is a new surprise. And when you decide to visit this continent, remember, here it is better not to argue with the laws. Otherwise, you may be forced to pay a fine for laughing too much. Every time I hear about new laws, I get the impression that Australians are just funny guys who like to joke. But at the same time, do not forget about serious things. In my opinion, even the issuance of fines here is done with humor, so that it is not so offensive. The Aborigines of Australia are not just indigenous people. They are a real mystery, shrouded in legends and myths. Their culture is a living encyclopedia, where each element has a special meaning. Take, for example, their art. Strictly speaking, these are not just paintings on canvas, but an expression of their connection with the land, history, and spirits of ancestors. Each line and color tells stories passed down from generation to generation, as if they contain the very essence of life. But what is really striking is their connection with nature. The Aborigines live in harmony with the surrounding world, because for them, the earth is not just a resource, but a sacred space. They know how to survive in the harshest conditions, using knowledge accumulated over tens of thousands of years. By the way, their traditional rites are not just cultural cultural rituals, but real ceremonies that help maintain a connection with nature and their ancestors. For example, a songbox is not just a musical instrument, but a way to transmit knowledge about the area and its inhabitants. It sounds like something from a science fiction novel, but it's reality. Of course, not all Aborigines live according to traditions. Many have adapted to the modern world, but in every movement you can feel this deep connection with their roots. And so, when you walk through the Australian expanses, remember, this land is imbued with the history of their people. And every time you see an Aboriginal person, you see not just a person, but a carrier of a 1,000-year-old culture. Sydney, although not the capital of Australia, but damn it, it is this city that first of all is imprinted in your memory. Why? Yes, because it is the main player on the Australian stage. Imagine, you are flying to the land of kangaroos and koalas, and what do you expect to see? Of course, the huge Sydney Opera House hanging over the waters of the harbour, like a giant sail ready to set sail. A city where skyscrapers grow like mushrooms after rain, and beaches are not just a place to sunbathe, but a real life in motion. The Golden Coast of Bondi and Manly. Here you have not only the sun and surfing, but also a whole subculture. And what about that famous harbor? It is not just beautiful, but as if it lives and breathes on its own. And don't forget about Australian stories and street cafes. There you can feel the lively atmosphere where every corner is full of life and diversity. Sydney is a multicultural cocktail that mixes the traditions of indigenous peoples and modern trends. But don't be fooled. Real problems such as the inaccessibility of housing and high prices are hidden beneath the external brightness. So if you suddenly decide to work in Sydney, be prepared to shell out. In general, this city is not just a tourist trap, but a real life with its ups and downs. Yes, Sydney is not the capital, but it certainly will not leave you indifferent. And so when you are sitting on the beach with a cocktail in your hands, remember, everything here is imbued with history and modernity, and every moment is a chance to touch something bigger. Moving away from the bright beaches and cultural diversity, let's lift the veil on the Sydney Opera House, which is not just a building, but a real architectural monster. Building it was a task as difficult as assembling IKEA without instructions. They started building in 1966 and completed in 1973. Here you have a time frame, as in a long-term construction project. The main idea, proposed by the Danish architect Jørn Utzon, looked like a dream, but in practice it was a real puzzle. How to make sure that the huge shells of the theater do not collapse under their own weight, how to connect them with other parts of the building so that everything looks harmonious. Every detail was under scrutiny, and problems arose like mushrooms after rain. And yes, funding is a separate story, where the budget either soared to the sky or fell to the ground like a meteorite. As a result, despite all the difficulties, the Sydney Opera House became a symbol of the city, and its design still causes controversy and admiration. But know that behind this beauty are years of struggle with bureaucracy and architectural challenges. So, when you admire its forms, remember, this is not just art, but the result of hard work and incredible ingenuity. And now imagine what it was like for the locals to see this monster slowly but surely growing out of the ground, promising to become not only an architectural icon, but also a place where music, sounds, and dreams become reality. The Sydney Festival music is not just another cultural event, but a real extravaganza, turning the city into a giant stage where every corner breathes art. Since its founding in 1961, the festival has become a real mega machine, bringing together artists from all over the world. But behind the bright lights and crazy performances are secrets that are not so easy to unravel. For example, did you know that this festival involves not only famous musicians and theaters, but also street performers who go all out to attract the attention of passers-by? It's like a treasure hunt, sometimes against the background of world-famous names. You can find real gems that simply have not managed to break into the mainstream. And one more interesting detail, the festival often becomes an arena for political statements. This is not just entertainment, but a platform where art intersects with social criticism. Performances that can shock or inspire become a mirror of the society in which we live. But of course, it is not without scandals. For example, when in 2020, one of the performers decided to expose his true feelings to the government, it caused not only delight, but also a real storm of criticism. So if you are going to the festival, be prepared for surprises and unexpected turns. After all, here they not only dance and sing, here they discuss, argue, and yes, sometimes even quarrel. The Sydney Festival is not just a holiday, but a real laboratory of ideas, where everyone can find something for themselves, if, of course, they are ready to dig a little under the surface. Let's figure out why millions of people dream of living in races. Unlike the gray and rainy days in Europe, it is really bright and warm here. But it's not just the weather, it's also the lifestyle. Australians, as a rule, are not in a hurry. They know how to enjoy the moment. This is not a metropolis where everyone is rushing to work as if they have an urgent business behind their backs. The other side of the coin is nature, which is just off the charts. Beaches like in postcards, wildlife, unique animals. It's all here, close at hand. Do you have a dream to see a kangaroo or a koala? In Australia, this is not just a dream, but a reality. But let's not idealize. Life here is expensive. Housing prices in major cities such as Sydney and Melbourne can be shocking. Many dream of a comfortable life, but the reality may be different. You have to work in several jobs to make ends meet, and of course, cultural differences. Australia is a melting pot where cultures mix, but as in any other place, not everything is so smooth. There are prejudices and stereotypes that can become an unexpected test. And yet, despite all these nuances, the dream of moving to Australia continues to attract people like a magnet. This is a place where you can change the situation and perhaps find your true identity. Australia is a real country of contrasts, where wildlife coexists with noisy metropolises and ancient traditions of indigenous peoples resonate with modern technologies. Take, for example, the fact that here you can find both majestic mountains and endless beaches with snow-white sand. It seems that every corner of this country is filled with something amazing, but do not forget that behind the bright pictures there are also difficulties. Perhaps you will be shocked by the level of housing prices, or you will encounter local prejudices. This is what life in Australia is like. Not sugar at all, but damn it, how attractive it is. What moment surprised you the most during our discussion? Write about it in the comments. I'm interested to know your opinion. And if you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to follow my travels and discoveries in the most unexpected corners of the world. Let's explore, discuss, and not hesitate to express our opinions together.